Welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with the Week Morning Express. We are within our last hour of the show, but we can close off the show without Tech Central. Every Thursday we choose to take a look at what's happening in the tech world, especially here in Kenya, and give focus to that. Well, this morning we're going to take a look at cybersecurity, and to take us through this conversation, I have with me Anthony Kashanja. He is the head of cybersecurity at Safaricom. It's so good to have you here, Anthony.
Thank you for having me.
That's an amazing title. So did you study this? Did you study being a cybersecurity expert with the intention of working at Safaricom?
No, actually, I stumbled into cybersecurity by mistake. My background is in electrical engineering, telecommunications, and software development thereafter, but I had a keen interest in IT, computers. So it was as a consequence of doing software development that I kind of stumbled into IT audits and IT security. So that's how I got into the field.
Okay, so Anthony was telling me there's something like ethical hacking, aka positive hacking. Yes. I didn't even know of this. So you're going to take us through that in just a few minutes. But before that, the conversation we were having behind the scenes, where the question of security for Kenyans. Yes. You go to a certain building or office and you have to sort of sign in. You put your name, you put your phone number, you put your ID number. You withdraw at an M-Pesa shop, your ID number is there, your telephone number is there, even your gender, because you know they normally have female or male is also there. In short, if someone was to really track you, they could get certain details of you even without having to give out, because you know our details just seem to be everywhere, right? Talk to me about this and how what it is that Kenyans can do, like simple activities that Kenyans can do that can help them secure themselves. That way if I go to a local building, even though I leave my ID or I leave my phone number, if I go withdraw from an M-Pesa shop, I'm okay.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you're right in pointing that out, that there's a lot of information that we leave all over the place depending on the buildings that we visit or people that we interact with. And that information can be used, in an attempt to social engineer you or to trick you into giving some sort of your information. So we need to be a bit more wary into how much information that we divulge. So if I speak specifically in the case of Safaricom, as you may recall, a while back we used to have a much larger M-Pesa book that captured a lot of, quite a bit of detail. But that has since changed because of this very issue that we're discussing today. And we've limited it to the minimum information required or necessary in order for you to enjoy the product or service that you're interacting with the agent with. So that would be really my advice to institutions like ourselves, or other buildings like ourselves, to try and restrict that information to the minimum that's necessary or required. And over and above that, where do these booklets actually go? Are they safely stored? Are they safely secured? If they are no longer needed, are they shredded? How long are they maintained for? So that would be my guide. On a more personal level, that I would also say, you may not necessarily give all your sensitive info. Like, for example, if you have a backup line over and above a primary line, you may want to give your less sensitive line, right? Rather than, your primary line that you use, say, for mobile banking or for M-Pesa, as an example. So that would be my guidance in terms of how to tread a bit more carefully when that happens.
Right, fantastic. All right, so now let's just dive into the conversation of hacking. Let's start by describing what is hacking. What is described as hacking in general terms?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. What's hacking by general terms? I think the essence of the word hacking means, somebody who enjoys the intellectual challenge of overcoming a limitation. That's the essence of the term. I think over the last decade or so, the term, because of the use hacking to be attributed to computer crime, that's what we associate the word hacking for. But from where I see it, the word hacking actually means somebody who overcomes a challenge. You could be hacking away, say, for example, in the energy space, like what Elon Musk is doing with, electric cars. It's going to Mars, right? They are hacking some sort of limitation to achieve a certain objective. The same way a computer hacker would want to hack certain limitations around the term. So that's the general essence of the term. But if I restrict myself to the point of hacking when it comes to computers, generally speaking, we're talking about their controls around a computer. Let's take, for example, a simple case like a payroll system, right, where everyone's pay is processed through. So in order for you to be assured that the integrity of the payroll files, those who you're paying, the amount that you're paying them is sound, there are certain controls that you put around the IT system. So what a hacker would do would be to look at those controls and see whether or not they are sound and that whether or not there are ways to circumvent them or break in to affect the integrity of those payroll files.
You know, Anthony, I've never thought of hacking from that description, and I'm glad we started from there, that hacking is just overcoming a certain challenge.
Exactly.
Perhaps it's because of the stereotypes of cybersecurity and cybercrime, computer crime, that you think of hacking as, and the first thing that comes to you is that it's a negative perspective.
Exactly.
Okay, and is it like the way we normally see it on movies and series, someone behind a computer playing around with zeros and ones and how does that work?
No. I think Hollywood dramatizes everything, so I can tell you for a fact it is not that case. Not all of it is entirely true, that's the honest truth, but there are certain bits and pieces of it that are true. It's a lot of work that you have to do. It's not that easy saying, okay, I'm going to hack into NASA, give me a minute and I'm in there.
Give me a minute,
No, that's a bit dramatized. There's a process that hacker follows to get into the system, right from gathering information about your target, footprinting, seeing what kind of services they expose, kind of similar to casing out a joint before you break in. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, and some of these engagements can take weeks, right, or months, depending on the scope or the scale of the job. And it's an important point for me to clarify that, back to the point that you mentioned earlier, that hacking is not necessarily a negative statement, because from hacking we fork out two different types of hackers. There are those who are ethical hackers who use those practices for good. So I would work, say for example, with Standard Group to give assurance around your payroll system that I was talking about earlier, to make sure that that process is of sound integrity, it is confidential. And there are those who use the same practices for ulterior motives or unethical practices. So the ones who do it for good are what we would call white hats, or good hackers, and the ones that use the same practices for unethical practices are what we call black hats.
Okay.
Right. So depending on the motivation for you hacking, I think it determines the hat that you're going to wear. So from where I sit, we work with a lot of white hats. And that's what we do to help organizations, make sure that their brand assets are secure.
Okay, so then what makes a good hacker?
Yeah, so what makes a good hacker? That's an interesting question. I would say, from my point of view, first and foremost, you have to have an eagerness to learn. It's a fast-evolving field, very fast-paced. If you rest on your laurels and don't keep up to pace with technology and innovation and what's happening, then I think you will fall behind as a good hacker. So you have to have that curiosity and eagerness to learn. Probably the same traits that a journalist would have, trying to get to the source of truth. And that's something that you carry with you from the start of your career to the end. So I would say that's one of the main attributes that one needs to have. Secondly, an appreciation of how networks work, right? So, those would be the fundamentals of how an IT system works. How does one computer talk to another? And understanding that process, because you will look to those skills and competencies to make you that good of a hacker or an auditor much later on. So a good grounding in that. Then further up the pyramid, there are different routes that you could take, right? Some people want to go into more database security, so getting skills and competencies in that regard would help. Others want to focus more on web applications, like, for example, internet banking. So, if you're good at coding and programming, that would also help. So those would be some of the skills and competencies that would be required to be a good hacker.
Anthony, I'm glad that you first gave us your background, which shows especially a lot of young Kenyans watching that if they wanted to go into this field, right, and if they were deciding something different, that it's never too late. Nevertheless, here in Kenya, are there institutions, organizations that give what you're saying, certificates or classes and lessons behind cybersecurity, coding and programming and hacking, where you can actually say, for my university course, this is what I'm studying, and this is beyond your normal computer 101 skills that everyone has to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. There's that need in terms of academics.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, definitely, there's lots and lots of institutions that offer all those kind of courses, certifications that one would need to further their...
Even here in Kenya?
Even here in Kenya. So if you look to, for example, what I talked about, understanding how networks work, right? Cisco is very much local, and they have lots of... Cisco is a networking company, and they're very much local, and they have lots of certifications and trainings to sharpen your networking skills. If you look to software development, we have lots of institutes, training companies as well that are giving training in software development, learning how to code, how to program, how to write programs. We have institutions like the iLab in Strathmore as well that also give that kind of training. Strathmore University itself, I think, has just started a master's program in cybersecurity. I know there's a similar program in USIU. They also focus on forensics, which is a subset of cybersecurity. So we are not by any way constrained by choices or platforms to look onto. But if I could just add one more thing, back to the point that I mentioned earlier, that eagerness and thirst to learn, YouTube is a fantastic resource.
Google is your teacher?
Yes, Google is your teacher. There are lots of nano degrees nowadays that you don't need to be in a classroom. And I think the world is changing in that regard. The way we approached education traditionally in a class lecture kind of scenario is changing, more so in the IT field. So people can also look to lots of nano degrees online to further expound their courses as well. So if you want to do something on artificial intelligence, you can do a 6 weeks course from Microsoft online, free of charge.
Wow.
Right? So there's lots of resources as well online from YouTube. Khan Academy is a great resource. Like Cybrary, so there's lots and lots of resources out there.
All right, so from just our conversation, you really described to us ethical hacking. These are the white hats, good hackers who use the skills for good.
Yes.
But how popular or how widespread is hacking in Kenya? Give us the numbers and the statistics, then perhaps take us on a global platform.
Yeah, so hacking as a concept is quite widespread in Kenya. And I think to further explain that point, I will speak from the perspective of Kenya as a country, its embrace of IT. Lots of companies and businesses have embraced IT as a means of creating new products and services for their customers to enjoy. If you look at, say, for example, the banking space, right? Lots of mobile apps. Everyone has a mobile app nowadays. You don't need to visit a retail branch. When the fiber optic cable landed down at the coast, there was an explosion of internet connectivity. Everyone has a phone nowadays. You enjoy M-Pesa services on your phone.
Right.
So that embrace of IT is fantastic. And with that comes, because every coin has two sides, some of the risks or dangers that would be associated with the safe embrace of IT. So if you take, for example, computer use in schools, and there are lots of schools that are using it, right? Your kids are going to use it to learn, but they can also fall prey to certain predators online. They can also, access inappropriate content online. So the issue of being exposed to the vices associated with the use of internet or technology are big, and it is from that perspective then that I would say that hacking is a big issue. There are a couple of different types of hackers. That would be my next point. That there are those who do it for fun, right? They just want to learn and get better at it. There are those who are, cyber criminals who are out to get profit. So we've seen lots of fraud scenarios, institutions being attacked or hit and losing money, or people losing their data. There are those who are hacktivists. Hacktivists meaning they are hacking for a specific agenda.
Wow, hacktivists.
Hacktivists, yes. So they're driven by a specific agenda, whatever that is. And we want to hack for that purpose as well. And we've also heard of state-sponsored espionage. So, one state spying on another, right? So, if you look at that kind of spectrum in terms of the embrace of technology, the different types of hackers, I would say that issue is very prevalent here. So we've had quite a bit of instances of cybercrime within the region. That is there for a fact. Lots of people have lost money. Banks have lost money. There's a very good report done by one of the local cybersecurity firms, and it talks about losses in the amounts of billions, right? In the amounts of billions within the country, and this is because people are not, keeping this matter of cybersecurity topical. More so because we take a product, if it's a mobile app, for example, to market with a bias on functionality, meaning my user can use it, but not so much focusing on the cybersecurity angle. And the analogy I like using is you would never build a house without knowing, where your sewer line will pass or how you will drain water. Or you would never build a car without thinking about the safety belts or the brakes that will be there in the car. So that need of building in cybersecurity in our products and services is key. And for as long as there's that disconnect, we'll continue to have this issue playing out.
Your fellow colleague, Bright Kameli,
yes,
we've had him on the show a couple of times, and there's a time he even showed us there's a website where you can see the hacking that is currently going on around the world. And it was numbers running in these millions live, what was currently happening. I mean, it's crazy. Anthony, tell me about the bug bounty program.
Yes. Okay. So yes, we kicked off we launched our bug bounty program back in late June of this year. And the whole reason why we did it is that we wanted to offer a platform for white hats or ethical security researchers to be able to come to us and approach us and give responsible disclosures on weaknesses that they may observe in our products and services. So if I go back 10, 13, 15 years back, when I started off in this career, when we found bugs in systems as we interacted with companies, there was no way of me approaching bank A or hospital B to tell them, okay, there's this issue. Often at times that was frowned upon and you are shushed off. But as Safaricom, what we've chosen to do is to say, look, here's a platform where you can submit your security research to us. It will be reviewed. If it is authentic and validated, you'll get something back in it for you, meaning you will be rewarded for your security work. So it's a two-way street in terms of, first and foremost, the security researchers get an opportunity to be acknowledged for their work. They get rewarded for it, right? They know that we are approachable. And that's working out well because we have lots of security researchers out there now who are earning a living. And I met a couple of them in the last couple of weeks since we launched and are saying they're doing this full-time. Because that's what the bug bounty program does. They're not only doing it for Safaricom, but as a result of them working with us, they have also been exposed to other companies like General Electric, Ford, etc. So they're doing it full time. That's in it for them. For us, we've instantly multiplied our army of security angels. In as much as we have people who do that for Safaricom, we now have close to 100 extra people, an army of security researchers who are constantly looking at our products and telling us, you need to fix that, you need to fix this. So we benefit as well.
Security angels.
Yes,
wow.
I call them security angels.
You call them security angels.
Yes,
that's an interesting term.
Yes.
Okay, so there's hacktivists that I've learned today and security angels.
And security angels.
All right, speaking of the developer community, Safaricom has also partnered with Africa Hacken, which is quite big when it comes to this issue of hacking. Perhaps how has that partnership also helped the developer community, and also how would it then go to help the common wananchi?
Yes, exactly. Okay, I'll give it again from my personal story because I think that will help expound it a bit better. When I started off in this field, there was no platform or forum for cybersecurity people to come together. There weren't that many people in the field locally as it is today. If you look to, say, for example, accountants, they have their accounting forums like ISPAC, right? The doctors have their medical forums. The lawyers have the LSK. So they have a place or platform that they can come together and discuss matters health, matters legal, and help further the career. But that was lacking for cybersecurity. So we chose to work with the Africa Hacken Conference because they were offering that platform for local security researchers. And why we've worked with them is, now developers or IT security people or people who want to get into the field have a place where they can come and interact with like-minded people, further their career, help contribute to the agenda by way of, say, for example, guidelines, laws, and regulations that are coming up within the industry, helping institutions deliver their brand promise. And more importantly for us as Safaricom is to nurture those young minds, not to become black hats, but to become white hats. That to say, hey, there's a place for you to use the skills and enjoy it, but use them for good, right? And earn a living out of it. So that's our perspective, and that's what draws us ever closer to that. And I think that culminated in June when we launched the bug bounty program, which is the first in its region, to allow us to say, for the developers or the IT security professionals, here's a platform to interact. And as you do so, there's something that you can get out of it, and we will also benefit as well as a brand.
All right. Perhaps we can close off with you highlighting the gaps here in Kenya when it comes to cybersecurity and offering a solution or two.
Okay. So I think the key things that stand out for me, there may be all different opinions on this, but for me, I think awareness. is a big piece. Exactly how we're discussing today. An understanding of what exactly cybersecurity is, right? And why we need to keep it topical, whether it is you visiting a building, the details that you leave, whether it is, taking a product to market and you making sure that it's equally safe as it is functional. So awareness is key, because lots of the end users that we work on, or in our case, employees that we work with, are first line of defense. So creating an awareness program to first understand the gravity of the issue is very, very important. Secondly would be to make sure that the basic hygiene around the IT systems that we rely on is taken care of. You wouldn't
basic hygiene.
Basic hygiene, yes. I like simplifying things, because I think sometimes this topic is made a bit more complicated than it should be. You wouldn't leave the house without taking a shower, taking care of yourself. So why take a product to market without taking care of that basic hygiene? If somebody is going to send money, they need to authenticate themselves. Who are you? Are you the right person? When the money is sent, it needs to be assured that when it moves from person A to person B, if it's 10 shillings, it gets to the other side as 10 shillings. So basic hygiene is what I would call it, of the IT systems, would be another key thing. And it's a simple concept, but you'd be amazed at the level of oversight in that regard. Patching your system, making sure you have an antivirus in your system. It sounds obvious to me from where I sit, but it's often overlooked. But if you pay attention to that, I would guarantee you that 99% of the issues or cybercrime or hacking incidents that we hear of would be addressed.
So what I'm hearing is, do your homework.
Do your homework, be aware, and make sure that those basic security hygiene protocols are observed to secure your IT systems.
All right, Anthony, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Anthony Kashanja. Anthony Kashanja is the head of cybersecurity at Safaricom, taking us through ethical hacking, a conversation that you've just had. So number one, creating awareness, such conversations. And of course, number two, just simply do your homework. It goes a long way, not only from an individual point of view, but even for companies.